At exactly 3:29 a.m. Pacific time, something catastrophic happened at Tesla's Lathrop Megafactory. The lights went out, permanently. Ladies and gentlemen, Asian Guy here, and what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally destroy everything you believed about renewable energy, grid modernization, and the green technology revolution that governments worldwide have bet trillions of dollars on. While politicians celebrate clean energy transitions, while investors pour billions into renewable infrastructure, while utility companies replace traditional power generation with Tesla energy storage systems, the most devastating industrial fraud in modern history has been unfolding across power grids that keep civilization running. This isn't about electric vehicles or automotive manufacturing. This isn't about solar panels or charging stations. This is about systematic deception in energy storage technology that threatens to collapse electrical grids across multiple continents when Tesla's promises meet engineering reality. They haven't just exaggerated performance capabilities or inflated efficiency claims. They haven't just encountered typical technological challenges or manufacturing delays. They have systematically delivered energy storage systems that cannot perform critical grid stabilization functions they were designed to provide, creating vulnerabilities that could trigger cascading power failures affecting millions of people. $127 billion in energy storage contracts sold, deployed to critical infrastructure locations worldwide based on performance specifications that Tesla knew were impossible to achieve with existing battery technology and system architectures. The largest green energy fraud in history, executed with Silicon Valley marketing sophistication and government subsidies, while power grid operators unknowingly installed systems that increase rather than decrease grid instability and collapse risk. But before I expose the classified utility company reports that prove Tesla energy storage systems are failing catastrophically at critical moments, before I reveal the insider communications that document systematic performance fraud and safety cover-ups, before I explain how imminent grid collapse will destroy the renewable energy transition and trigger economic chaos, you need to understand something that will shock you beyond anything you imagined about modern infrastructure vulnerability. This isn't about battery degradation or normal equipment failure. This is about fundamental engineering fraud that prioritized stock price over grid stability, marketing claims over physical reality, quarterly earnings over public safety. Tesla has built an energy storage empire on lies, and when those lies meet grid emergencies, civilization's electrical foundation collapses. My source, and I will protect their identity with absolute commitment, works within Pacific Gas and Electric's Grid Operations Center, the control facility responsible for managing electrical distribution across Northern California's complex power network. This person has been monitoring Tesla Megapack performance for 18 months. They have been documenting systematic failures of Tesla energy storage systems during peak demand periods, emergency grid stabilization events, and routine load balancing operations that require reliable battery performance. They have been filing internal reports about Tesla system malfunctions that threaten grid stability, about performance degradation that occurs far faster than Tesla specifications suggested, about safety incidents that could trigger major power outages if problems aren't addressed immediately. And according to this source, what happened at 3:29 a.m. represents the complete failure of Tesla energy storage technology under real-world grid conditions, revealing systematic fraud that threatens electrical infrastructure worldwide. Let me read you the exact words that were shared with me, words that expose the true scope of renewable energy deception. Tesla promised us grid-scale batteries that could stabilize renewable energy fluctuations and provide emergency power during system failures. What they delivered are sophisticated fire hazards that fail precisely when we need them most. During last week's heatwave emergency, 12 Tesla Megapacks went offline simultaneously, forcing us to implement rolling blackouts that could have been avoided if Tesla systems performed as advertised. We're operating critical infrastructure with equipment that doesn't work, and Tesla knows it. This changes everything we thought we understood about renewable energy reliability and grid modernization progress. Tesla Energy, supposedly the technological leader in grid-scale battery storage, has been systematically delivering systems that cannot perform the critical functions that justify their $127 billion in global contracts and government subsidies. But the crisis extends far beyond single utility companies to systematic fraud that affects energy storage installations across multiple countries that trusted Tesla technology for grid stability and renewable energy integration. The deception that shocked my source began with Tesla's Megapack marketing campaign that promised revolutionary energy storage capabilities that would solve the fundamental problem of renewable energy intermittency. Solar and wind energy generation fluctuates based on weather conditions, creating grid instability that requires backup storage systems to provide power when renewable generation decreases and absorb excess power when renewable generation exceeds demand. Tesla marketed Megapack systems as capable of providing instantaneous grid stabilization through rapid discharge and charging capabilities that would enable utilities to replace traditional fossil fuel power plants with renewable energy sources supported by reliable battery backup. The marketing promises included guaranteed 4-hour duration energy storage at full power output, 10,000 cycle battery lifespans, 2.5-second response times for emergency grid support, and 20-year system reliability under all weather conditions. Utility companies worldwide purchased Tesla Megapacks based on these specifications, designing renewable energy transitions that depended on Tesla battery performance for grid stability and public safety. But real-world Tesla Megapack performance revealed systematic failure to meet any of the critical specifications that justified utility purchases and grid integration planning. According to my source, Tesla Megapacks installed at PG&E facilities consistently fail to provide advertised 4-hour energy storage duration, with actual performance degrading to 2.3 hours under normal conditions and 1.7 hours during high-demand periods when storage duration is most critical. Battery cycle life degrades far faster than Tesla warranties suggested, with significant capacity loss occurring after 2,400 cycles rather than the 10,000 cycles that Tesla specifications promised and utility planning assumed. Emergency response times average 8.7 seconds, rather than the 2.5-second response capability that Tesla marketing materials advertised and that grid emergency protocols require for preventing cascading system failures. System reliability under extreme weather conditions proves completely inadequate, with Tesla Megapacks shutting down automatically during heat waves, cold snaps, and severe weather events precisely when grid stability requires maximum battery performance. The systematic performance failures create grid vulnerabilities that increase rather than decrease the risk of major power outages, contradicting the fundamental purpose of energy storage investment and renewable energy transition planning. But the performance fraud extends beyond technical specifications to safety issues that threaten catastrophic infrastructure failures and public safety emergencies. My source revealed that Tesla Megapack installations experience thermal runaway incidents at rates far exceeding Tesla safety projections, creating fire risks that could destroy critical grid infrastructure and trigger widespread power outages. Thermal runaway occurs when battery cells overheat and ignite, causing fires that spread rapidly through battery systems and can prove impossible to extinguish using conventional firefighting techniques. Tesla safety documentation suggested thermal runaway risk of less than 0.01% annually per installation, but actual incident rates approach 0.3% annually based on utility company data from operational installations worldwide. The 30-fold increase in thermal runaway incidents compared to Tesla safety promises creates emergency response challenges that local fire departments cannot handle effectively, particularly for installations located near residential areas or critical infrastructure facilities. According to my source, PG&E has implemented special protocols for Tesla Megapack thermal emergencies that include immediate area evacuation, specialized firefighting teams, and coordination with hazardous materials response units that suggest far greater safety risks than Tesla disclosed during system sales and installation. The safety incidents occur most frequently during high-demand periods when grid operators need maximum battery performance, creating scenarios where Tesla systems become safety hazards precisely when their grid stabilization functions are most critical. But perhaps most alarming is intelligence about systematic Tesla cover-ups designed to prevent utility companies and regulatory authorities from understanding the true scope of performance fraud and safety failures. My source revealed that Tesla requires utility companies to sign non-disclosure agreements that prevent public reporting of system performance data, safety incidents, or maintenance requirements that would reveal systematic problems with Megapack installations. Tesla service teams are instructed to characterize system failures as routine maintenance, rather than acknowledging performance deficiencies that would trigger warranty claims or regulatory investigations. Tesla software updates are deployed to modify performance monitoring systems, making it difficult for utility operators to document actual system capabilities compared to advertised specifications. The systematic cover-up efforts suggest Tesla leadership understands their energy storage systems cannot perform advertised functions, but continue selling contracts and collecting government subsidies while concealing fraud from customers and regulators. According to my source, the cover-up extends to coordination with government agencies that have invested billions in Tesla energy storage projects and cannot acknowledge systematic fraud without admitting massive policy failures and public fund mismanagement. The Department of Energy has invested $8.7 billion in Tesla energy storage projects through various grant programs and loan guarantees, creating institutional incentives to ignore performance problems that would require acknowledgement of failed clean energy policies. State governments have provided additional billions in subsidies and tax incentives for Tesla installations, creating political pressure to maintain public confidence in renewable energy transitions, despite mounting evidence of technological failure. Utility companies face regulatory requirements to achieve renewable energy targets that depend on battery storage capabilities, making them reluctant to publicly acknowledge Tesla system failures that would undermine regulatory compliance and public support for clean energy initiatives. The coordination between Tesla, government agencies, and utility companies creates systematic incentives to conceal energy storage fraud rather than address performance problems that threaten grid stability and public safety. But the fraud has already triggered grid emergencies that demonstrate the catastrophic consequences of deploying unreliable energy storage systems to critical infrastructure applications. My source provided detailed accounts of grid emergencies where Tesla system failures directly contributed to power outages, load shedding, and emergency protocols that could have been avoided with reliable energy storage performance. During the August 2024 heatwave, Tesla Megapacks at 3 California installations failed simultaneously when air conditioning demand peaked, forcing emergency power imports from other states and rolling blackouts that affected 847,000 customers. The September windstorm emergency revealed Tesla systems cannot operate reliably during severe weather, with 67% of installed Megapacks going offline precisely when renewable energy generation decreased and storage backup was most needed. October's wildfire prevention protocol required preemptive power shutoffs that Tesla systems were supposed to mitigate through battery backup, but systematic Tesla failures forced extended outages that damaged businesses, disrupted medical equipment, and created public safety emergencies. The grid emergencies prove Tesla energy storage fraud has immediate consequences for public safety, economic activity, and infrastructure reliability that extend far beyond financial losses to utility companies and investors. But there's an international dimension that makes this crisis even more devastating, as Tesla energy storage fraud affects grid stability across multiple countries that trusted American clean energy technology for their renewable energy transitions. According to my source, European utility companies are experiencing similar Tesla Megapack performance failures that threaten grid stability across the European Union's ambitious renewable energy transition programs. Germany's Energiewende renewable energy program depends heavily on Tesla battery storage to manage wind and solar intermittency, but systematic Tesla failures are forcing increased reliance on fossil fuel backup generation that contradicts clean energy objectives. Australia's grid-scale battery installations include massive Tesla projects that were supposed to stabilize renewable energy integration, but performance failures are contributing to grid instability and higher electricity prices that undermine public support for clean energy policies. United Kingdom energy storage projects funded through government clean energy initiatives are experiencing Tesla system failures that threaten achievement of carbon neutrality goals and require expensive backup infrastructure that destroys economic benefits of renewable energy investment. The international Tesla fraud affects global climate policies, clean energy transitions, and government credibility regarding renewable energy promises that depend on reliable storage technology that Tesla cannot provide. Tesla's systematic international fraud suggests coordinated deception designed to capture global market share in energy storage before performance problems became apparent to customers and regulators. But perhaps most disturbing is intelligence about timeline projections for grid collapse if Tesla system failures continue accelerating while utility companies remain dependent on unreliable storage technology. My source revealed classified utility industry assessments that model scenarios for cascading grid failures if Tesla storage systems continue failing during peak demand periods and emergency conditions. The assessments suggest that Tesla-dependent grids face increasing probability of major outages as battery systems age, performance degrades, and extreme weather events stress infrastructure beyond reliable capacity. California's grid faces 34% probability of major cascade failure within 24 months if Tesla system reliability continues declining at current rates and renewable energy dependence increases as planned. Texas power grid, which includes substantial Tesla storage capacity, faces similar vulnerability to cascading failures that could affect millions of customers and create economic disruption comparable to the February 2021 winter storm emergency. Northeast regional transmission systems that depend on Tesla installations for grid balancing face systematic risk of simultaneous storage failures that could trigger multi-state blackouts affecting tens of millions of people. The modeling suggests Tesla energy storage fraud creates systemic infrastructure vulnerabilities that could trigger civilization-threatening grid collapse if multiple failures occur simultaneously during extreme weather or high-demand periods. According to my source, utility industry leadership understands the scope of Tesla-related grid risks but faces impossible political and economic pressures that prevent acknowledgement of renewable energy transition failures. Utility companies cannot admit Tesla fraud without acknowledging their own due diligence failures and triggering regulatory investigations that could result in massive financial penalties and executive criminal liability. Government agencies cannot acknowledge Tesla subsidy fraud without admitting clean energy policy failures that would undermine political support for climate initiatives and renewable energy mandates. Environmental advocacy organizations cannot acknowledge storage technology failures without undermining public support for renewable energy transitions that define their institutional missions and funding strategies. The systematic institutional incentives to conceal Tesla fraud create conditions where grid vulnerabilities increase while public awareness decreases, maximizing the potential for catastrophic infrastructure failures that could affect millions of people simultaneously. My source provided final intelligence about emergency protocols that utility companies are quietly implementing to manage Tesla system failures while maintaining public confidence in renewable energy infrastructure. Emergency protocols include backup fossil fuel generation capacity that contradicts clean energy objectives but provides reliable power when Tesla storage systems fail during critical periods. Utility companies are quietly sourcing alternative battery storage systems from other manufacturers while maintaining Tesla contracts to avoid legal complications and public acknowledgement of performance fraud. Grid operators are implementing load management strategies designed to minimize dependence on Tesla systems during high-risk periods, effectively designing around storage capabilities that were supposed to enable increased renewable energy integration. The emergency protocols represent acknowledgement that Tesla energy storage systems cannot perform advertised functions while avoiding public disclosure that would trigger political and financial crises affecting clean energy transitions. But the protocols cannot prevent grid collapse if multiple Tesla systems fail simultaneously during extreme conditions that exceed backup generation capacity and alternative storage availability. Tesla's $127 billion energy storage scam represents the most devastating fraud in renewable energy history. The systematic deception delivered unreliable storage systems to critical grid infrastructure based on performance promises that Tesla knew were impossible to achieve. Utility companies worldwide trusted Tesla technology for grid stabilization capabilities that don't exist, creating vulnerabilities that increase rather than decrease the risk of major power outages affecting millions of people. Government subsidies and clean energy policies enabled Tesla fraud through institutional incentives that prioritize political objectives over technical verification and performance accountability. Grid collapse becomes increasingly likely as Tesla systems age, performance degrades, and extreme weather events stress infrastructure beyond the capabilities of unreliable storage technology that cannot provide advertised emergency support. The renewable energy transition faces systematic failure as storage technology fraud undermines the fundamental premise that batteries can replace fossil fuel generation for grid reliability and public safety. This is Asian Guy documenting the moment when clean energy promises met engineering reality, when political ambition collided with physical limitations, when systematic fraud threatened to collapse the electrical infrastructure that powers modern civilization. The storage systems are failing. The grids are vulnerable. The fraud is exposed. And somewhere in California, dark megafactory buildings serve as monuments to the day renewable energy marketing overcame renewable energy science, when Tesla chose stock performance over grid performance, when clean energy fraud created dirty energy consequences. $127 billion in fraudulent contracts. Grid collapse imminent. Renewable energy transition failing. The batteries don't work. The promises were lies. The lights are going out. The scam is exposed. The consequences are inevitable. The grid collapse countdown has begun.